Gamora is back in another film, and this time she's in a drama film called The Absence of Eden. What did I think about this film? Well, let's discuss it. What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for clicking on this video. My name is Ryan, and today on the channel we're going to be talking about a drama film called The Absence of Eden. Now, this film is directed by Perego Saldaña, and this is his directorial debut. It stars Zoe Saldaña, Garrett Hedlund, and Adria Arjona. The film has two different stories. You have one where an ICE agent is dealing with the moral dilemmas of border security, and this character's name is Ship, played by Garrett Hedlund. And then you have an undocumented woman who is fighting a ruthless cartel in order to get to the United States, and that is played by Zoe Saldana. Her character name is Esme, and if you're wondering, the director is her husband, and this is his directorial debut. Starting off with the positives, like we always do. Now, I was very intrigued with this movie because two different stories. I was wondering how they were going to really mesh well. Were they going to really connect in together? They obviously deal with the same kind of subject, but dealing with it from two different characters' perspectives. Cinematography and the visuals here, I think they're pretty good. There are definitely parts in here where you see they're in the desert, they're very much secluded, and you get to see how the cartel is really just handling a lot of things with this whole immigration and how they are doing a lot of things that obviously are wrong. It seems very accurate because we do see actual sex trafficking going on in here. We see families that are being separated. Speaking of families actually being separated, now there is a part in here where you have all the illegals in the back of this truck, and there is this sex trafficking scene that's going on where all the white men are picking all the illegals to have sex with, and there is this one woman who has a little girl. She gets picked by this white guy, and the child is left behind, and Zoe Saldana has the responsibility of taking care of this girl named Eden, and she actually strikes up a conversation with this other guy to do some work. He tricks her, and Eden goes missing, and that's kind of an afterthought of the plot. Now, she is obviously missing, but I felt like they don't really go much into that whole part of how she's missing. Now, obviously, it gets wrapped up later in the film, but it's really just kind of a really small smidget of the plot of this film. We see from the cop's point of view in which he's hunting down these illegals and they're turning them in. Certain things in here where you can really see where we have those real life problems here in America all the time. This is a subject that is a very sore subject, I would say. And I was just hoping with this film that we really were going to dive a lot into that subject and maybe add more and more to it. But unfortunately, this film, it just does not. The film's narrative, it really fails to capture the emotional struggle of our characters and the complex issue at hand of immigration. I felt most of the characters in this film, they felt very empty, very hollow. I couldn't really get attached to any one said character. And I think overall with this film, it doesn't really capture anything different than we've seen before. We've seen this where there is a lot of struggles with border security and where ICE is actually reeling in all these illegals, but there's nothing really different that we haven't seen in other films of this type of movie. Now, throughout this film, it's separated obviously into two stories, and even when Zoe Saldaña and this cop meet on screen, it's so brief that it just feels very wasted that they even interconnect within this film. Now, Zoe Saldaña, she is obviously an illegal, and she works in Mexico as a stripper, and when one of the cartel members actually come after her when she's giving a private dance, she kills said cartel member, and that's when they're actually coming after her. But then at the same time, she's trying to get into the United States as well. I think that whole cartel factor, it's there to a point, but I don't really think it's really that prevalent where I felt like they were really dangerous throughout the entire film. There were certain scenes where I was like, okay, they're really establishing them there, but there's no like ringleader or nobody that is really the main captain where I was like, okay, she should really watch out for him. Now, on the cop's point of view, he's really struggling with the whole border security, and he has a scene where he really can't commit to actually arresting this guy, but then the partner that he has, he just beats the crap out of this guy, and I was like, there's no repercussions for him, and the guy was just a freaking jerk. His partner was a terrible person, I thought. And I'm sure that there are people in that profession where they're really acting like that and we just don't really know about it. So they don't really dive too much into that character, but we know that that character is a complete jackass. Chip's dilemma is he starts to fall in love with this character played by Adria Arjona. And if you're wondering, she played the doctor in Morbius, and I haven't seen her since then. So it was a surprise to see her in this film. Now, she is a Spanish woman as well, and there is a little bit of a dilemma of where he finds out that she is an illegal as well, and he has to make the decision if he wants to turn her in or if he wants to go his separate ways. Now, that whole story I felt was very rushed in this film, and I think that just goes into the fact that this film, it's only 85 minutes total. So I think a runtime of a little bit longer could have really helped develop this movie a little bit more, because in this whole story, he meets her very quickly and she's probably only on screen for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and it's very hard to really get attached to that story, because as soon as we start getting attached to that story, they hurry up and they break that story apart, and then we go on to something else, and we're going more into where this cop is tracking more illegals, which that whole story then it starts to become a little bit empty inside, and it's very hard to really get into what he's really feeling as a character overall. Now, as the film actually comes to a close and certain things are really going on, I was like, okay, so we abruptly ended the film like this, which in one aspect, it's positive, and another aspect, it feels like we really didn't wrap up very well. And I also didn't like Chip's character. I didn't like how he was written. There were certain parts in this film where I was like, okay, I can really get into what he's trying to do. Then there were other decisions where they made him kind of evil, and then they would put him back to kind of like the hero again. I was like, why are you flip-flopping back and forth? I just didn't like how they wrote him. I just felt like he was a character where I was like, I didn't really know how to feel about him. So I guess by the end of this film, I just didn't really like him overall. And I felt like the payoff that they actually involved with him, I was like, this doesn't even feel earned. It feels like we flip-flop too much with him that I can't even really root for him as a character. Overall with this film, I would give it a score of a 2 out of 5. I just felt overall it was a very meh film. I felt like it tackled a subject that I was very much interested in, but if you're looking to go into this film and maybe learn a little bit more or find something where this film tries to actually solve the problem or give certain suggestions as to what could actually be better within the border security, you're not going to get it with this film. It's definitely something that you've seen many times before. And I just think overall the two stories didn't mesh well. The empty characters didn't help. And I just felt like I could never latch onto anybody. Now, Zoe Saldaña, there was a few moments in this film where I was like, okay, I feel for her. I understand a little bit of what she's actually going through here, and she's really struggling. But most of the time, I was very disconnected from all the characters. And unfortunately, with this film, I can't say that I actually recommend this film. But maybe if you're at home and it's a rainy day, maybe you are interested in a film like this, and maybe you like Zoe Saldana and you want to check it out. I completely understand. It's not a horrible watch. It's not unwatchable by any means. But it's just a meh film overall, and it's not something that I'm going to revisit in the future. Let me know down in the comments. Have you guys heard of this film? Are you interested in checking it out? If you have checked it out, let me know what you thought about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you're not going to check it out in a theater, are you going to check it out when it comes to streaming? Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.